a charity for health and wellbeing and we called it Horizons. So the good news was that we've got more time, but the bad news was we had decided to do it at a time when there were huge funding cuts, as we all know. And we could just have walked away at that point. But instead of walking away, we thought, well, we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll get started as volunteers. We're trustees of the charity, most of us, and the others are volunteers. So then why did we come into Eldine? We came into Eldine because there's a GP called Dr. Holiday who works here, and he had the same feelings that we have, the same kind of vision. And so he said, why not come into Eldine? And that seemed quite good because it's a fairly small area, and we thought that would help us to try things out, and if they didn't work, then we could quickly change them. But the other thing that over the years that had frustrated us was that there was very much a top-down approach to everything to do with the services. You know, services were developed by different organisations and provided, but what we wanted to do was to start from the grassroots, come into an area, start talking to the people, and start talking to people who worked here, find out what the issues were, and grow and help people to develop what they were wanting in their area. So some of you possibly have seen some of the reports about what's already been achieved in Eldine, and the strengths and the skills of people who are living here have already come through. For example, there's somebody who'd already set up a website before we became involved, and then once we got started, there were people saying that they could run a gardening group, they could run a small library, they could do all sorts of things. And then a group got together and decided they would do a litter pick, and they've done that a number of times because one of the big issues has been the amount of rubbish and litter. The other big thing is that next day, I think it's Monday or Tuesday, there's a meeting of residents and they're working towards forming a residents association. So, you know, there are lots of enthusiasm, and there's already quite a lot happening here, and we want to build on that. And also the other big frustration for all of us, not just the half dozen that were getting together and talking about things, but for lots of other people who were involved in services. I don't know if you can all see this. It's obviously very high tech. This up here, here's the person, I show the person, and if people are lucky, they've got family and they've got friends, and in the community there might be some communities have lots of things going on and some don't have very much going on, and we've discovered, quite honestly, in Eldine there's not a lot going on. But there might be things like yoga, and there might be a choir, dancing, all sorts of different things that people can participate in. But sometimes if people become unwell, or there's circumstances to do with perhaps somebody loses their job, and the result of that is they can't pay their mortgage, so they have financial difficulties and housing difficulties, so they have to go and make use of some of the services that are around. At the moment, if somebody needs perhaps a number of different agencies, they have to go separately to them. And for somebody who perhaps they're feeling a bit down anyway because of their circumstances, that can be very daunting and really difficult. So that's that one. Here, we've tried to look at how things could be done differently if people either within the area, or some people maybe from outside, worked in a different way, so that perhaps the community side of things is developed more, so that people have more choices of going to activities within the community, or volunteering within the community, or helping to set up a self-help group. So the community itself has more to offer. And then if they need to go to some of these agencies, we haven't worked out how this could be achieved. There are probably a number of different solutions, but that's maybe something we could go into later. So if the person perhaps, you know, was going to the employment agency, the job centre, and perhaps to CAB for advice about how they could prevent their house being taken away, and also going to the housing department, perhaps it could be that one person from one of these agencies could say, well, I'll be the lead person. I know they're using these other agencies, but I'll be the lead person. And if the person needs it, if they don't need it, obviously it's better if the person does it themselves, but if they need it, then they can ask this one person if they can support them through it. So that's just a sort of talking point, really. So I don't know if I've missed anything out, but that's just to give you a flavour of the sort of direction, I suppose. And